Merry Christmas to all the English literature enthusiasts, and in this festive season I am welcoming you with a new video of mine. As I promised you earlier, in this video I am going to describe you, or I am going to make you understand postmodernism as a literary theory and movement in a very simplified manner. So stay tuned and keep on watching. So what is postmodernism? In my previous video, where I have discussed modernism as a literary theory and movement, I have talked about the genesis of postmodernism as a literary theory and movement lies within the modernist trend. Postmodernism began in the late 20th century all over the globe, especially in the European countries. Precisely speaking, the timeline of postmodernism is after 1945 to till date. But we find first reference to the word postmodernism in 1870. After that, after the Second World War, postmodernism has its genesis, and in the 1970s and 1980s, postmodernism as a movement reached its zenith. So as a result, postmodernism as a theory and as a movement encompasses several important features. What are the features of postmodernist movement? What were the reasons for the genesis of this kind of movement? I'm going to let you know. So why did postmodernism develop first of all? Postmodernism developed after the Second World War, that is in 1945. Though the initiation of the movement of the radical shift in critical ideas and intellectual development had started long ago, almost towards the beginning of 1935, 1939. But with the Second World War, the devastating massacre of the World War II, the massacre and the genocide, the homophobia, the atrocity, the brutality, all these negative effects of the Second World War left far-reaching impact on the minds of the intellectuals all over the globe. And now they thought that it is time to think about the world and its politics, its mechanism in a new way. So, in order to capture the devastating hollowness, brutality, and the massacre of the Second World War, postmodern movement took its birth. And postmodern thinkers believe that after the Holocaust, after the brutality of the war, there is no point of believing that we had a glorious tradition. We had an absolute truth. So postmodern thinkers, they questioned the meaning of the grand narrative or the meta-narrative, the historical narratives as the authentic mode of narration. They questioned the value of truth, and they rejected the idea that there can be only one absolute truth. So as a literary movement, postmodernism features several concepts. Number one, first of all, postmodernism completely breaks down the idea of tradition and the necessity to stick to it. Rather, postmodernism celebrates the fragmentary condition of modern life, of the present life presented to them. And as a result, postmodernist writers, they encompass disorder, chaos in their writings. So postmodernism has a celebratory tone which stands in sharp contrast to modernist movement. As I have already told you, modernism is a sad literature. It's a literature of lamentation that bemoans the loss of tradition, values, and order. And modernist writers had nostalgia for the past. Whereas postmodern writers, they tend to think that the present fragmentary situation is a liberatory phenomenon. So they celebrate this fragmentary condition of life, its chaos, its disorder, its eccentricity. So as a result, second feature of postmodernism is that it does away with the concept of grand narrative or meta-narrative. Why? Because grand narrative, they believe it is constructed by one singular authority. So there is no authority in the fragmentary condition. And third of all, the postmodernism believes that there is no absolute truth, because they already debunked the myth of grand narrative. So with that, they also debunk the myth of absolute truth. There is no truth. They believe that truth is very contextual and context specific. So there can be many versions of the truth depending on the speaker. So postmodernism, by debunking the grand narrative, debunking the notion of absolute truth, fourth feature of postmodernism is that they encompassed in their writing heteroglossia. Lot of so many narrative voices, so many narrators. They are speaking, they are contributing. So there is no one authoritative narratorial voice. Fourth of all, postmodern writing celebrates this fragmentary condition of the reality, and as a result, in the writing we find collage, montage, pastiche, lot of references. And importantly, postmodernism, fifth feature is that postmodernism does away with the linear time frame. Time, the concept of time is very much haphazard, anti-clockwise, non-linear time. That is why postmodern narrative uh, continuously talks about the fragmentary or the fragmentation in the temporal span or the time structure. Time frame continuously moves backward and forward and in the future in the narrative. And as a result, postmodernism also believes that the reality is very different. It is a magic reality or the magical realism. So these are the major features of postmodern writer, and as a result, in postmodernism, there is also a sense of hyper-reality. Postmodernism believes that we live in a hyper-real world where the authentic object or the concept of authenticity is very, very much questioned. And now, let me talk about what the notable thinkers of postmodern thought. First of all, we have to mention Michel Foucault, the eminent French philosopher and critic. Michel Foucault is an important postmodern thinker. We have Roland Barthes, important postmodern thinker. We have your Jean Baudrillard. Baudrillard and his theory of simulacra is an important concept in postmodernism. What does he mean by the theory of simulacra? Baudrillard gives us the idea of simulacrum. He believes that in postmodernist condition, every object, every authentic object has been copied in reality. And in the second phase, the copied version of the authentic object is represented to us as something real, though the copied version is not real. And in the third phase, there are signs, there are delectable signs within the copied object where you will not be able to find whether it is a copied object or the real one. And in the fourth phase, the copied object appears to be the real object. So in this condition, in this postmodernist condition, we believe that everything around us is a copy of the originality. So it is a hyper-real situation, it is a simulacrum. So this theory of simulacrum, he applied in context to the media, communication, and if you read Walter Benjamin's essay, the art of mechanical reproduction, in this essay, he talks about the numerous copies that one can create in the postmodern condition, and as a result, the concept of authentic or real is lost. So, for instance, I'm giving you the idea that if you write something on your MS Doc file and then you can make a copy, you can make n number of copies in your laptop. So, you will not be able to understand which is the real copy, right? So, this is a perfect example of simulacrum. We have also your Jacques Derrida. Derrida and his reconstruction is one important features of postmodernism. You have your Soren Kierkegaard and you have your Martin Heidegger. So these are the important renowned postmodern thinkers. And if you ask me to make you understand the difference between modernism and postmodernism, this question is very important for assistant professorship interviews and also for NET set or for your clarity. Postmodernism is a very celebratory movement. The fragmentation of reality is celebrated in postmodernism, so there is no tone of sadness. Contrarily, in the modernist movement, it is a literature of mourning, it is a literature of lamentation, and modernists continuously lament the loss of old values, tradition, and order. And postmodernism incorporates pastiche, collage, montage in order to capture the haphazardness, disordered state, the messy condition of reality. Contrarily, in the modernist movement, we find the no such things. And importantly, the timeline of modernism is between 1914 to 1945, and postmodernism is 1945 to 1999 as such. And the notable modernist thinkers are your Ezra Pound, T.S. Eliot, Virginia Woolf, James Joyce. Notable postmodern thinkers are your Roland Barthes, Jacques Derrida, Jean Baudrillard, and your Michel Foucault. So these are the important thinkers. And postmodernism also concentrates on the lived reality and its hyperreal situation. And even if postmodernism, if you look at it very clearly, postmodernism also gives us the theory of magical realism or magic realism. So the reality, your version of reality is so different that sometimes the intervention of magic is a necessity to interpret this kind of reality. And the proponent of the concept of magical realism or magic realism in postmodern context is the eminent author, Latin American author, Borges. So this is my understanding about postmodernism in a nutshell. So please like and share this video, and do subscribe my channel, and please stay tuned and keep on watching. Bye bye.